This is section 10.6 installment loans. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen are your notes for the class, and you can see that it says an installment loan is a series of equal payments made at equal time intervals for the purpose of paying off a lump sum of money received up front. Examples of this are like a car loan, a house mortgage. Basically what's happening is that you say, I need a lump sum of money today, and a company, a mortgage company or a finance company says, we'll give you that money, but you're going to have to pay us back every month. You have to make this monthly payment, and in that monthly payment will be included a portion that will pay back towards your loan, and also a portion of interest that will go directly to them. Now there's a formula for this payment that uses the same variables we've used in this entire chapter. Capital P represents our principal, which is our loan. R represents our annual interest rate, which is our APR. T is the time of the investment. Now, it's more like an investment in you. It's really your loan term in years. M is the number of times compounded. Almost always for a loan, you'll be making monthly payments back on a loan. P is your periodic interest rate, which is your APR divided by the number of compounding periods. We talked about that yesterday. So for example, if you have a 12% interest rate per year, they're not going to charge you 12% each month. They'll charge you 1% each month for 12 months to get that 12%. And T is the total compounding periods. Then again, that is the number of times per year times the number of years. So if you make 12 payments a year for 5 years, that's 60 total payments. All right, so we have an example here at the bottom of the screen. And it says you are going to buy a new car. The sticker price is $23,995, including taxes and license fees. You've saved $5,000 as a down payment, and you can get a loan for 6.48 APR for 5 years, which you will pay back in monthly payments. What will your monthly payments be? So the first thing you should do is go through the problem and pick out what you think all these numbers mean. I see that we are buying a car that's worth 23, but we have 5 to pay down. So we really don't have to finance the entire thing. We really only have to finance the $18,995, which would be the difference between your down payment and the cost of the car. So when we are looking for that capital P, that principal, it's $18,995. Our interest rate is 6.48%, so we have that R equals 0.0648. 5 years gives me T equals 5, and since this is a loan we're paying back in monthly payments, that means we're going to use M equals 12. Our periodic interest rate is R divided by M, that's 0.0648 divided by 12. And our capital T value, our number of compounding periods, 12 times a month for 5 years, that is 60 payments. So we are going to make some payments here. So I'm going to calculate and put all these numbers into my formula. So capital P is 18,995, and I've got my periodic interest rate here, which is 0.0648 divided by 12. We also have 1 minus 1 plus P, so I'm going to put that in the bottom and type that in as negative 60. Now, one thing that's nice about this, if you have a really good calculator, you should be able to punch this in basically one step. Otherwise, you're going to need brackets across the numerator and denominator. This is a pretty challenging formula to deal with in the situation of just like a scientific calculator. At the end of this, we end up with $371.48. So how much did you actually pay back? Well, if you take your $371.48 times your 60 total payments that you made, that gives you $22,288.80. If you subtract off the original loan payment, that means that you're really charged $3,293.80 in interest. All right, so here we go. We have our loan amount, and I'm going to use this payment calculator program in Microsoft Excel to show you that this works exactly the same way. So your loan amount you type in is $18,995. Your annual interest rate is 6.48%. And notice I don't need to change that into a decimal because the computer puts the percent sign after it. It assumes that is already a percentage. We're talking about a 5-year loan with 12. And when I hit enter there, over here at the side, I'm going to see there's my $371.48 as a payment. It's telling me that I'm scheduled to make 60 payments, and I actually do make 60 payments. and then the total interest paid is $3,293.86. Now you'll see we're off by 6 cents here, but that's not a real big deal. The reason why is because we rounded and then multiplied, whereas this finance calculator is able to manage a whole lot more decimal places. Essentially, that 6% there is the interest that we earned, the interest that we were charged for these little decimal places out in the thousandths and beyond. You also have this thing at the bottom called an amortization schedule. This will tell you exactly what's going on. So essentially, when you take out a loan for $18,995 and you're scheduled to pay a payment of $371.41, all $371 doesn't go towards your balance that you owe. Instead, what happens is they take their interest first. So they take your payment here, $18,995, and they multiply it by 6.48 divided by 12, or in other words, they multiply it by that periodic interest rate, and they end up with $102.57. So that's how much you owe them. Now they've figured out that you needed this payment of $371.48. So they take their $102.57 from your payment, that goes into their pocket, you never see that money again, and the remaining $268.91 goes towards paying off your balance that you owe them. The next month, this $18,726 comes from taking the $18,995 minus this $268. And they do the same thing again. The next month, they calculate the periodic interest rate, 0.0648 divided by 12 times your $18,000 here. They end up that you owe them $101.12. They take that off of your payment. They put that in their pocket, and whatever is remaining, that $270 goes up. So as your balance goes down, the interest you owe them goes down, and the amount of your payment that's actually going towards the principal goes up. And you could scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you could see that eventually almost all of your payment is going towards paying off your loan, and only a very small part of it is going towards paying interest. Sorry about my little messaging app that insists on being up there. All right, so on the next page, I just was showing you how you filled in this schedule. And we have an example. And this example is already worked out, but I'm going to show you how to do this in the calculator. So Harry and Jenny decide to refinance their house. They currently make a payment of $1,100 per month, and they still owe $75,000 on their mortgage. They see an option to refinance their house at 6% APR for 15 years. What will their monthly payment be? Does this sound like a good idea? So a refinance is when you basically take out a loan to pay off another loan. So you go to a lender and you say, hey, will you give me a whole bunch of money to pay off this loan I owe to this other guy? And then I'll owe you the money instead. So they're going to want to take out a loan of $75,000. I see we've got a 6% interest rate for 15 years. We're talking about monthly payments on a loan, so that would be 12. So I'm going to go into my Excel document. I'm going to clear out these numbers I had before. All right, so here goes. Loan is $75,000. Interest rate is 6%. Time. So time is 15 and monthly payments 12. And so you'll see what this does is this tells me that if we do this, we have a scheduled payment of $632.89. There it is. This will give them, they have 180 more payments to make. And we total interest paid $38,000. Wow. So borrowing $75,000 at a 6% interest rate, you end up paying back almost, over half of that, right? $38,920.67 to borrow that money. But the scheduled payment they would make is $632. So does that seem like a good idea? Well, it would save them quite a bit of money per month. They could free that up in their budget. One thing they could do would be to try to go ahead and pay a little extra towards their principal every month with the money they were saving, or maybe they could use that for another bill or just to put into savings. There is an element of this that isn't mentioned in this problem, that when you do refinance, you have closing costs, and those aren't considered here. So closing costs are something that would need to be considered. Okay, you decide to buy some furniture for your apartment. You pick out $2,500 worth of furniture and decide to finance the purchase to build your credit. The furniture store will allow you to finance the furniture with no money down for 2 years at a 5.5% APR that you're going to pay back in a series of monthly payments. So what is your monthly payment? All right, so I'm going to go over to my calculator here. I'm going to finance $2,500. My interest rate, they say, is 5.5%. It is 2 and monthly payments. Hit enter. Okay. And again, my computer is being a little slow. I'm not getting my amortization schedule down there. I am getting these numbers over to the side though. I can get that my scheduled payment would be $110.24. There's that. And then I will be paying $145.74 total in interest. So I end up paying $145 more for the furniture than it's actually worth. But I do have the benefit of getting the furniture now instead of having to wait for 2 years in order to pay for it. Okay. What if you decide to pay a down payment of $1,000? Now you're only financing $1,500. Let's change that number. $1,500. All right. So $1,500, I put that down. That's going to change my payment to $66.40. And now I'm only paying $87.44 in interest. Okay, so a good deal of money less in interest now, and a very small payment. So what if you decide you're going to finance the whole $2,500? All right. Okay. Still 5.5% interest, but you decide that you can really afford to pay $150 per month. Okay, so you have in your budget $150 a month that you have free that you could pay for this furniture. Maybe you went in before you bought the furniture and said to yourself, listen, I know I can afford a $150 payment a month. So you decide you're going to go ahead and pay that. So $150 minus your $110.24 that you owe right now. You decide every month you're just going to write the check for $150. In other words, you're going to be adding an extra payment of $39.76 or the remainder of that. So I'm going to put that in this spot here that says optional extra payments, $39.76. All right. So if I'm talking about that $39.76, that puts on there extra. Okay. What ends up happening? Well, the first thing I notice is that I do pay less in interest. Now I'm only paying $106.68 in interest as opposed to $145.74. The other thing is that although my scheduled payment is the same, I'm adding an extra $39 basically on every month. And so I was scheduled to make 24 payments. But when I do this, I end up paying it off early. All that extra $39.76, I'm paying more, so my loan gets paid off sooner. How much sooner? Well, I went from 24 months to 18 months. Okay, so 24 months to 18 months, I've saved 6 months worth of payments. If you want to think about that, you're paying $150 a month. You're saving 6 months. That's almost like putting $900 back in your own pocket. I mean, it's not like you get that money back, but you're not spending it on something, and it's free there in your budget to spend on something else. Now, some people say that you should make double payments on things. So one thing you could check is like, well, if I have $2,500, what if I can afford to make double payments? So if I'm supposed to pay $110.24, what if I do that again? What if I add every month $110.24? What happens now? Well, one thing that happens is that if you double your payment, you actually end up cutting your time in half. Now we're only making 12 months worth of payments instead of 24. We are $73.30 in interest as well. Okay, so this little box down here that says optional extra payments, that's if you decide to pay more than you were scheduled to pay. This is a really good idea if you want to try and pay off the loan early, because what happens is all of that extra money goes towards paying off your principal. So the next month, when they go to charge you their interest payment that they're going to take out of your payment, there's less money that you owe, and so the interest payment is less, and so more of your payment goes towards paying off your principal and not paying back your lender.